evening, and welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings you the law, the Constitution, and the events of today to you each month. My name is James Barrett, and along with Mark Malachowski, we've got 3 subjects that you will be interested in. Mark, what are we covering tonight?
Well, we've got Tupac's mom's estate, which was worth $50 million.
Wait a minute, Tupac? Are you talking about Tupac Shakur?
The rapper guy.
The rapper.
Yeah, rapper guy, okay. And then you got the billionaire Mathew Mellon, OD'd in Mexico.
Isn't that the Mellon banking family?
Yeah, and he had worth $2 billion, but no one knows where it is. And then you've got Ivana Trump, one of Donald Trump's wives. She had a $1 million bequest to her nanny and divided up $30 million amongst other folks.
What about to her attorney?
To her attorney, I don't think attorney. I think attorney was already taken care of.
All right, Mark. Why don't you start us off with Tupac? This is, we've had a series of estate segments, and I find it very interesting that all of these rock stars, rap stars, and gospel stars, and whatever star, whatever music, there's always something going on. So, Mark, what's going on with Tupac?
Well, I think that there's a lot of unknowns. See, Ellis Williams, she passed away, and they said there was no signs of foul play.
Who's Ellis Williams?
Well, that was Tupac's mom. And so it makes me a little suspicious when the last line, there's no signs of foul play. It's like, okay, well, did they do an autopsy? I don't know if they did an autopsy. I think a lot of times you have famous people who die and there's no autopsy, and I'm like, well, they couldn't afford an autopsy here? And it's kind of strange. I mean, she was older, 69.
She's only 69.
69, but, but she was involved in a lot of stuff. She had a lot of money, $50 million. I don't know.
$50 million?
She had 50.
Is that from Tupac?
I don't think it was. She was making $1 million a year off Tupac's.
That takes a long time to have the $50 million.
Yeah, well, you've got expenses. Okay, she had 4 houseboats in Sausalito.
I heard that.
And those houseboats are not, like hippie houseboats. These are nice houseboats, right? And 4 houseboats is worth some money right there. Oh. And so just right there and maintaining those and her lifestyle. But I think that she came into money after she kind of, what I would say, it looks like she was like a New York banker, Cheka cadre. In other words, she was involved in some politics, maybe some, I don't know if you'd call it, whatever you would call it. I would say it was secret stuff. And that's how maybe some of that money came in. And when that masses of money came into her, she changed her name and became like a public political figure.
Okay,
right.
Well, I understood that she was part of or associated with Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And going back to
Black Panthers.
And the Black Panthers and the Black Guerrilla Movement. And so it seems like she has a radical background.
Well,
Is that where Tupac got his background?
I just don't know, but I do know that you have Black Panthers, whatever, the BLM. That's pretty much run by, there's a lady named Susan Rosenberg, right? Who blew up.
By the way, is a Jewish white woman.
No, but she blew up the Capitol building.
And Bill Clinton pardoned her.
Yeah, and she got pardoned. She had a life sentence. She got pardoned, or 30 years, and she got pardoned, but she was convicted of killing a cop.
Yeah.
And also, she had a lot of explosives that were going to blow up the U.S. Capitol. But that was kind of looked aside because she was doing for a good cause, right? So, I mean, she was helping black people by blowing up the Capitol and killing cops. So they kind of said, it's helping black people somehow. I don't know how.
Wait a minute. But wasn't she also involved in the Puerto Rican bombers? I think she was across the board on this. And she was from a rich family, very radical. And I believe that I mentioned a moment ago, Bill Clinton pardoned her.
Well, Bill Clinton may have owed them some favors. I mean, she was associated with, very, very discreet and successful assassins and different espionage things. So, when you have that level of espionage and secret police or whatever you want to call them, a lot of people owe you favors because you don't want to cross. Like the FBI might look at something, the CIA might look at it, and they might go, oh, well, that's above your
pay grade.
That's above your pay grade. And once you get above the FBI, the CIA's pay grade, a lot of spooky stuff happens.
So I have a question. Let's get back to where is that $50 million that Tupac's mom?
Well, it's kind of interesting. There hasn't been a lot of detail on on what happened with this. I don't know if Tupac had any children, or I don't think
he was fairly young when he died, or I should say when he was assassinated.
Yeah, he was assassinated in Las Vegas, leaving a boxing match and some kind of a pistol or machine gun assassination, which seems relatively sophisticated. Of course, no one got in trouble. There was like some people involved in his business. P. Diddy was involved in his business.
Yeah.
Biggie Smalls was involved in his business. And Biggie Smalls also got assassinated soon
Well,
afterwards.
what's interesting about this is Biggie Smalls and Tupac, they're from two different sides of the country.
Right.
And there was the East Coast and the West.
It's kind of like the salsa thing. It's on the one or on the two. You know, it's a big controversy.
Hubba one, hubba two.
Yeah, hubba one.
But no, they were having what in the rap industry was defined as a war.
Yeah.
And they actually did music one side against the other side, and they insulted each other.
So I wonder how much is that? I mean, you would hope that this is kind of like professional wrestling, but I'm going to crush this guy, you know, this is for PR. Right. But it seems like maybe this got personal, or maybe they got involved in other things.
There's a lot of theories about this, and it's been researched pretty overly.
So there might have been other businesses besides the music business involved.
The drug business.
Yeah, there might have been some other business involved.
And just so everyone thinks about it, a lot of the rap originated from drug dealers that made it on the street. Then they would go in and they would start performing, and then they started promoting other people that were not involved in the drug industry. But you will, if you follow the news.
Well, they say that the Kennedys were bootleggers.
Well,
so that's not uncommon for people.
Well, Joseph Kennedy, that's how he made his fortune.
It's not uncommon for people to do a little stuff on the side before they become rich and famous.
And then you become rich and famous, you own a bank, and you're top of everything.
Then
your son becomes president.
Then you become a little more respectable. Yeah,
but
so
then
that's
they get
not
assassinated because all the friends they stepped on, their father stepped on, comes back to pay back.
Also, I think there's a favor bank, and if you don't pay back your favors, you've got a problem. So
you've got to have a problem.
The Clintons, I think, are pretty good at paying off their favor.
They always
bank.
pay off
their favors. They pay off
the payers.
Yeah, they pay off. So
but let's get back to Tupac. So where's this money going?
That's it. We just don't know. $50 million and the 4 houseboats. We just don't know. They were docked at this the West Pier in Sausalito, and pretty nice section. And we don't know. And there was also something. Tupac was involved in a fight at a Marin City festival, which seems kind of unusual that there'd be a fight at a Marin City festival. And ended up there was a death of a 6-year-old boy. I don't know if anyone was charged with murder on that, or what happened on that.
There's little information on that, just that there was a death. And somehow he was related.
He was involved in a fight.
He was involved in a fight.
But was there gunshots? Was a like a run down by a car? What kind? These fights, I don't know. It's not very well explained.
Well, that's what's interesting. A lot of this is not well explained, and that's what
that's what kind of makes it interesting.
This is why this whole thing doesn't make any sense. Why is it not explained at all?
Well, that's why I'm saying it might be above our pay grade, because it looks like no foul play suspected, and then someone led to the death. Well, wait a minute. Either it was an accidental death, or it was manslaughter, or involuntary manslaughter, or it was ruled suicide, or it was a murder. It's usually one of those things when you die.
I think we're going to have to revisit this when more comes out. Mark, what is our second subject?
Well, the second one is kind of interesting, and I really didn't know about this until I was looking into some of these. I wanted to do a cryptocurrency show, and I had someone who did cryptocurrencies, and I read the book on it. But to tell you the truth, I really didn't understand it enough to do an interview on it, because I don't understand where the money is. Of course, then you look at the Federal Reserve. Where's that money? So I don't really understand where money is.
Okay. Well, we have a modern example of where the money isn't, and that was Bankman-Fried with the party in the Bahamas, so to speak, where they were running a $100 billion enterprise off QuickBooks.
Right.
And I always find that amazing. My QuickBooks, I can add in, I had lunch. I had this, and that's my QuickBooks. But now with this, they had a $100 billion enterprise donating money all over the Democratic regime. And by the way, no one gave the money back.
Yeah.
And they're trying to claw it back. But anyway, so tell me
They
about
usually-
Mellon.
They usually don't try to claw those loans back.
Not
very-
from
very-
the Dem-
No,
not
no,
from
they
the
don't. They don't
Democrats, 'cause
try.
it's already
It's
gone.
like claw.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. So, but this guy was a cryptocurrency investor. That's why I really have a hard time getting my head around exactly what cryptocurrency does and how you get your money out of it. But my understanding was a blockchain that kind of hides all this information. And if you have this very long code, you can get to your account and do stuff with it.
Yeah,
right?
okay, hang on.
And
Let
if
me-
you don't have that very long code, you're out
Okay.
of luck, right?
Okay, here's the problem with this. It's all like belief. You believe it, you have it because you remember when they used to talk about mining cryptocurrency? Well, it's all a mathematical problem you're mining in a computer. And so those people that are that mathematically astute mined it, and then they trade on value of the mined cryptocurrency. Now, what Mellon did, in my little background research on this, what he would do, he started with 2 million and he built to 1.3 billion.
No, he turned it to 2 billion.
Yeah, 2 billion. Well, and what happened was
no, 2 million went to 1 billion. I'm sorry.
1 billion.
I'm sorry.
And what happened is
Still pretty good.
the system he was using was called Rapid Rain or something.
Uh-huh.
It was a crypto something like that. And what they found out, which is interesting, he cashed out 350 million within a week before the rain dropped by 80%. So he made that. He got 350 million out.
But we don't know where it went.
But that we don't even know where it went.
Right.
But on top of that,
There's 6.5
there was still 6.5 million, 650 million left in this because it came back. And
Right.
so now they're speculating that it's over $1 billion again. And nobody, but see, here's the thing about cryptocurrency.
Right.
If you don't have the
code
passcode to get in,
and it's a long code too.
You have nothing.
No, I looked at it. It's a long code. It's like 27 letters, and it's, you know how you're trying to do a password and you want to use password number 1, and they're like, that's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
And so well, this is really long. It's like 24 characters,
Right.
and it's like all jumbled.
Okay, well, you've heard the story about 5 years ago when crypto was first out. There was a gentleman, I believe was in Silicon Valley. His people, when they were cleaning out his office, they threw away an old computer. Well, the old computer was the only computer that had the access to his cryptocurrency. And so he wound up he paid to dig up all the dumps in the Bay Area looking for his computer so he could get back in. And he didn't find it because without that computer, without that login, without that password, it's gone. Yeah. And so this is the thing about crypto.
See, the thing I heard about passwords, the guy said, like, how come you make these passwords so difficult that you can never remember your password and you can't use it? And the guy goes, I'm having a fight with my wife. I just did this to make everyone's life miserable. So, but maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But I think it comes down to that. Those that mind, those that know don't mind, those that mind don't matter. Maybe that's the money. Okay.
Well, you know what's interesting about Mellon, though?
He took this Ayahuasca stuff.
He was married to the founder of Jimmy Choo shoes.
Jimmy Choo shoes. He didn't need money.
He didn't. His wife made over $100 million on Jimmy Choo, and was still going.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it? It was probably his addiction to numerous narcotics.
Oh yeah, he had some problems.
He had the OxyContin problem
and cocaine.
And the cocaine, of course, that all goes along. And what happened?
Speedball. They did that.
Speedballs.
Well, it's not really speedball. I think that methamphetamine and the heroin is the speedball.
Well, speedball is coke and heroin.
Coke and heroin.
Or you could do meth and heroin.
Yeah, meth.
But what the big deal is...
I guess it depends on your budget.
The problem is, no matter how wealthy you are, if you're still on narcotics, you're still on narcotics. I don't care if you got $1 billion in the bank or you got $5 in the bank. Narcotics create a problem in a marriage. I know this from the experience in my office. Drugs and marriage don't get along. So even if they're both so successful, by the way, his great-great-great-great-grandfather started the Mellon Bank Empire. So even if he got a few bucks, but they say he was getting he got 25 million when he was 21. But that was like the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
So this guy never had to really worry about money, ever. He was known as a bon vivant around the world.
But wouldn't you say that, if you come from a wealthy family, that you want to prove yourself by
you still want to prove
And I think that he did prove himself. He took 2 million and turned it into $1 billion. So I think he wanted to,
2 million
because
turning
people always say, "Oh, you inherit this money; it's so easy." Well, on the other hand, people want to try to match their father, and that's a big.
You're not. Well, his father. Well, okay. By the way,
or grandfather,
his great grandfather or
but
whatever.
I'm saying
I think
that
it was
is a lot.
great grandfather.
That is a lot of pressure on people.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
And that might be why he kind of started taking the drugs.
What happens when there's somebody like great grandfather makes all the money? The Rockefeller story, the Getty story, all of that. You see that a lot of the offspring down the chain are not that smart. They're not that smart. They're into these. They're maybe educated, but they can't work at a hot dog stand because they're so used to wealth. And you know who did? Berkshire Hathaway, the founder of Berkshire Hathaway, I forget his name as I sit here, but he makes his kids work. He started them working for 25 cents an hour. He trained them with working. A lot of these families, the dynasties, never taught their kids to work. They taught them to be educated, be entrepreneurs, art, whatever, but they didn't teach them to work. So you get this guy, Mellon, he's 54. He's worked, but he's done play while he worked.
Well, I don't know about that. I do.
I did my homework.
I know, but I'm just saying the whole philosophy. I think that what happens is people in a family thing, they want to. It's very stressful, I think, for people to want to perform at the level of the
patriarch.
Of the patriarch. It's stressful because even if you make 10 million, it's like, well, Grandpa made 50 million.
Well, he made 50 million by your age.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of like, but anyway, so he was. There's this kind of a confusing story. I don't really understand. He was taking a lot of this Oxycontin, apparently.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. A lot of the pills.
Wait a minute. I know you and I have talked about this briefly. Allegedly, before he went to one of his first rehabs, he was taking 80 a day.
80 pills a day.
80 pills a day of anything will kill you.
I would think that 5 pills a day would be a lot, but I mean,
I don't know. I've never been addicted to that.
Your heart would stop.
At 80, you think, okay, 10.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I would think if you had a broken leg and you had to walk 20 miles, 3 would probably do it, right? So if you're taking 80, I don't know.
I don't know where 80 gets you.
I mean,
but he had been in rehab multiple times.
Okay, so he's down in Mexico apparently.
Well, he went to Cancun.
Yeah.
To this place called Clear something or other.
Anyway, and so he's taken this hallucinogen, Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Apparently, it's some cactus juice or some psilocybin-like thing.
It's just like a psilocybin.
Psychedelic thing.
It's psychedelic.
And some people say that helps you clear up your addictions because it's not addictive. But apparently he had a heart attack, and they think it's associated with this hallucinogen.
Right. I think what we're going to do with this, because the story is just kind of breaking, I think what we ought to do, just like Tupac, because everything's breaking, tonight we have breaking stories. And so I think what we ought to do right now is move on to our third story. Okay. What is that, Mark?
So that's Ivana Trump. And she made that's like Trump's
Donald's ex-wife.
One of Donald's ex-wives. I think didn't he have more than one ex-wife?
Yeah, he did.
He had a couple. And so she gave $1 million to her nanny, which people think is a big deal. But Eric said that Dorothy was this Dorothy Curry was a nanny, and it was a great influence on the kids' lives. She taught them how to pray in English because I think Ivana was Czech. Maybe.
That's possible.
But I mean, and so her.
But they didn't speak English.
And her English wasn't perfect, and so Dorothy Curry taught them how to speak English. Taught them prayers, and really was what Eric Trump said. Dorothy was a big and very important part of the family, so they considered her, really part of the family, and they, there's a lot of good feelings there, and I think that's an excellent thing, and I think that $1 million is probably pretty fair for the years she put into it.
Especially since it's not taxable, and that means that she could, if you invested properly, she could have a lifetime income.
Right, and but the big story here, of course, is that people say is Ivana stiffed the Donald. Well, the Donald, $1 million to the Donald one way or another is probably not.
I don't know about that. That might be a bad golf weekend.
Yeah, that's not that big of a deal to him because he had $8 billion, and I guess he had a couple $2 billion bankruptcies. But I think the Donald probably can do some deals and make $1 million.
I think he can weather not getting $1 million.
And I don't think I don't know if that's really a whatchamacallit. I don't know if that's really a slight to him, but people
No,
say it's a slight.
well, you know,
People say it's-
statistically, most ex-wives never leave their husbands anything.
Yeah, well, they leave them some things.
So
you know?
I don't know. So what's interesting is there was a townhome that was run down in Upper Manhattan that she owned, and they say she's worth like 30
million or something like that.
30 million. But they say the townhome is worth 26.5 million.
On top of the 30.
On top of the 30.
That's possible.
The 30 is one thing.
If I remember correctly, I think Ivana did select a lot of the stones and the type of construction, and she had a lot to do with the interior decoration.
Probably out of European background.
And this wasn't just, you know, like interior decoration, putting up paintings. She would go to wherever, Greece, and like find the marble quarry and pick the color marble and figure out where you're going to put it on which wall and help with the steps. So she really did a lot of construction stuff.
Very much the artist.
But she was also very involved in making this hotel chains very famous because she put this whole, you know, marble, you know, facade on here that was that was amazing and very good.
Well, don't forget, Donald was because of his background in buildings and things like that.
Well, his dad was a builder.
His dad was a builder.
And he built a bunch of government-funded
housing.
But what he learned from his dad was his dad would go around, and even though he owned everything and had a Cadillac and all that, his dad would go around and pick up every nail.
Okay.
He would pick up every nail that the workmen would drop.
Well, there's something else he did.
And
they went around and collected rent.
But they watched
with the Donald.
But they watched everything very carefully, every penny.
Every penny.
So they were rich, but they weren't careless with their money. They were very attentive to the business.
There's one story that I know about this. Donald Trump's father said, when you're collecting rent from the government housing, you never stand in front of the door.
That's right.
You knock, and next thing you know, you never know what's coming through. You never know what's about to blast. And so his dad and Donald,
especially if it's a shotgun shack.
Yeah, it was a shotgun shack. His dad always taught him to stand on the side.
Well, that's because anytime you're doing sales door to door, I don't know if people do that anymore because everybody's so scared to open the door or come near the door anymore. People are afraid to answer the phone now.
Yeah.
But in the olden days, I think if you knocked on a door, you want to go back 10 paces and then let them look out the window and then show your brochure or your ID or something, because you don't want to be standing right next to the door when people open it because it freaks them out.
It freaks them out. Well, you know, just a little
Even
story,
if you're selling cookies,
tiny story on this. I delivered newspapers.
Right.
Okay. And my biggest job each month was trying to collect from people $2.25.
Well, that's a lot of money in those days.
Palo Alto Times.
But you could buy a car for $200.
Yeah, well, see, what's crazy about it, you can hear people scampering around in the house, and oftentimes you hear, oh, it's a paper boy.
Oh,
don't open the door. Because they didn't want to pay their $2.
Cheese it, it's the paper boy.
Oh, my God. And so what I'd have to do is I'd wait for the Saturday mornings when usually the father or the mother would open the garage door and they'd do something, right? And I'd go sneaking into the garage door.
You'd be
Paperboy!
Staking the joint out, yeah. Well, see, I had a different thing. My brother had these things like from St. Francis. They had chocolate bars they would sell.
Yeah.
And I would say, well, I'll do a deal. If I get 15% in 1 out of 6 bars, I'll sell them for you. And I would go to the door, and then if you show chocolate bars, people open the door. And then it's cash on the barrel.
Yeah.
It's like, you want a chocolate bar? And they're like, oh, okay, I need the cash. So that's a lot better. You want cash on the barrel if you're going door to door.
Well,
actually, what's interesting about the Donald, what I thought was very interesting, is that, there was the skate park, the ice skating park, and it was never working. And they had the copper piping, and every night the copper pipe would get stolen, and every morning the city would put more copper pipe down, and so Donald, the grandkids wanted to go skating, and so he called the hockey guy up in Canada, and he goes, "What do you guys do for your hockey things? What kind of copper pipe do you use?" They go, "We don't use hockey pipe. We use fiberglass pipe, or we use plastic pipe."
Right.
And so he says, "Okay, I'll do it." Right.
And he offered to
do it for free.
The whole thing
for free. And they've been working on this like 15 years.
And they never got it right.
Well, no, they got it right because every night they stole the copper pipe, and then the taxpayers.
Well, who stole the copper pipe?
Anyway, but so
the mayor's
whoever. But the point is, he fixed it in just a brief type, and he put it in, and the people were scanning in no time. So, but I mean, he's kind of attentive to detail, and I think Ivana was also very attentive.
She was very attentive to detail.
And people go, well, these guys are rich and they're lazy and they just made a bunch of money. Well, but if you read their lives, no, they were
They worked hard.
They were very attentive to every little detail.
Well, I got one more
but
story.
there was one that was funny.
Hang on,
What I thought was funny is like he was trying to sell this development, right? And he goes out there and he goes, well, it's just a big vacant lot. I can't get people to give me $1 million. So he said, bring in a bunch of bulldozers and stuff and start digging stuff. And then, just start digging. I don't care. Bring in 30 bulldozers so the investors come. They get out of the whatever.
They go, what's going on?
Limousine. There's like, and then one guy comes up and goes, I don't understand. This bulldozer's dug in this hole and this other guy went and filled it. And he's like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know.
Wait a minute. Along that building story, I got something that's really good. You know what of his best deals was?
Atlantic City.
No, he bought the air over Tiffany's in New York, and what he was ahead of the game on this buying the air.
You mean the airspace?
The airspace above.
Because there's a flight path, and up to that airspace,
it wasn't just a flight path. Because you got easements better.
But there is a flight path at a certain 900 feet or something, and up to there are easements to air.
You can own the air.
You can own
the space above buildings.
Because I've had that dispute with the fire escape before, and I said, look, you guys can't be up on the fire escape. I own the air because I have the lease to the land, so I own the air up to the flight path.
But in New York, you have to be declared that you bought the air. You can't just say, I own the air.
In general, if you own the dirt, you own the air.
Yeah, well, not in New York, you didn't. Not in New York.
Well, that's another thing. Like in Sausalito, they own the ocean. Everywhere else, the federal government says if it's not a shipping lane, then you can anchor there, right?
Right.
But Sausalito says we have a land trust or an ocean trust, so we own the ocean. So that's an interesting one too.
Well, that's interesting. Is it the shoreline or just the ocean?
It's part of the ocean. It is not the shoreline itself. It's underwater.
Oh.
And they say it's like a reserve for the terns or something like that. Mm-hmm. But so there seems like there's a conflict between federal and local law.
Well, I got to tell you, Mark.
But anyway, that's an interesting one.
Okay, it's been a pleasure tonight, and I will tell you that it's always exciting here at Law Talk. And by the way, whether it be rappers, mothers, or it could be billionaires' wives, or it could be billionaires generally, there's always something interesting each month on Law Talk.
Well, what's interesting, I think, is Mathew Mellon. There's $2 billion, and he left no clues. And I think he was 54 years old. He didn't think he was going to pass. No. And then whoever finds that the secret number is worth $1 billion.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Mark.
I bet there's people looking.
I don't know where that is, but it's going to be another treasure hunt for somebody.
Yeah, it will be. Okay. Sounds good.
Good evening.